New photos from House Democrats that put Jeffrey Epstein back in the spotlight on the eve of the deadline Congress set for the Justice Department to release all the Epstein files.
Trump administration's announcement that no Jeffrey Epstein client list exists.
On December 19, 2025, the Department of Justice began uploading thousands of files related to Jeffrey Epstein. By December 20th, at least 16 of those files had vanished from the website, including one showing photographs of President Trump inside a desk drawer at Epstein's Manhattan residence. The DOJ initially gave no explanation. Then they blamed victim protection. Then they put some files back. But here's what they're not telling you. Nearly 700 pages of the released documents are completely blacked out. Entire grand jury transcripts redacted from first page to last. This is supposed to be transparency. If you watched the news coverage this weekend, you heard a carefully curated story. CNN reported the files were released, check. They mentioned some celebrity photos, check. They showed Bill Clinton in a hot tub and called it a day. What you didn't hear is the full context of what actually happened. The Epstein Files. Transparency Act passed Congress with bipartisan support in November 2025. Trump signed it into law. The legislation was clear. Release ALL unclassified documents within 30 days. That deadline was December 19th. Congressman Thomas Massie, who co-sponsored the bill, highlighted the exact language on social media: not later than 30 days. And all document. So what did the DOJ actually release? According to their own website, they uploaded photos, grand jury testimony, audio files, and call log. Sounds comprehensive, right? But here's what the mainstream coverage glossed over. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche admitted on network television that this wasn't everything. He said the DOJ would release more in the coming weeks. Coming weeks. The law said 30 days. They missed the deadline and admitted it on camera. Let's talk about what vanished. NPR conducted their own analysis and identified more than a dozen files that were available Friday but gone by Saturday. Among them, file 468. This file showed a photograph of a desk at Epstein's Manhattan home. The desk had multiple framed photos on top, inside an open drawer. There were at least 2 images featuring Donald Trump, one with women in bathing suits, another showing him with Epstein, Melania, Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell. House Oversight Democrats noticed immediately. They posted the original image to social media and asked Attorney General Pam Bondi directly, "Is this true? What else is being covered up?" The DOJ's response evolved over 48 hours. First, silence. Then Deputy Ag Blanche appeared on Meet the Press Sunday morning. He said the removal had nothing to do with President Trump. He claimed victim advocacy groups requested the files be pulled because they showed unredacted images of women. But by Sunday afternoon, the DOJ told a different story. In a statement posted to social media, they said the Southern District of New York flagged an image of President Trump for potential further action to protect victims. Out of an abundance of caution, they temporarily removed it. After review, they determined there is no evidence that any Epstein victims are depicted in the photograph. So they put it back. Think about what just happened. The Southern District of New York, the same office that prosecuted Epstein and Maxwell, flagged a Trump photo for victim protection in an image where the DOJ later admitted no victims appeared. That's not victim protection. That's something else. And here's what nobody is talking about. At least 15 other files were also removed. These included paintings of nude women and other desk photographs. As of this recording, it's unclear how many have been restored. If you can verify this yourself, go to justice.gov/Epstein and start comparing file numbers to the original release manifest. To understand why these redactions matter, you need to understand the history. In September 1996, 9 years ago, a woman named Una Maria Farmer filed a complaint with the FBI. She alleged that Jeffrey Epstein had stolen photographs of her younger sisters, aged 12 and 16, that she had taken for personal art purposes. She told the FBI that Epstein may have sold these photos. She also reported that Epstein asked her to photograph young girls at swimming pools and threatened to burn her house down. She told anyone. The FBI took this complaint in 1996. This is now confirmed in the newly released documents. You can see the FBI intake form yourself on the DOJ website. What did the FBI do with this information? The documents don't show any follow-up. For 9 more years, Epstein continued operating. It wasn't until 2005 that Palm Beach police opened their own investigation after a family reported their 14-year-old stepdaughter had been paid for sexual activity at Epstein's mansion. Maria Farmer is now in her 50s. After the files were released, she issued a statement through her attorneys calling it one of the best days of my life. She said she feels redeemed because for nearly 3 decades, she was treated as if her report never existed. She's currently suing the federal government for failing to investigate her allegation. The newly released documents prove she was telling the truth the entire time. Now let's examine a court document that mainstream media mentioned briefly but didn't dig into. Among the released files is a complaint from a 2020 civil case against Epstein's estate and Ghislaine Maxwell. The plaintiff, identified as Jane Doe, describes meeting Epstein at age 13 at Interlochen Arts Camp in Michigan in 1994. According to the filing, Epstein and Maxwell flew their private plane to Traverse City to visit the camp. Flight logs and the released documents confirmed travel to that area in August of that year. Epstein had made a $25,000 donation to the camp and even had a scholarship. Lodge named after him, Epstein, Lodge which served as premier guest accommodation. The document alleges that when this girl was 14 years old, Epstein took her to Mar-a-Lago. There, according to the filing, he introduced her to Donald Trump. The document quotes Epstein elbowing Trump and asking, in reference to the 14-year-old, this is a good one, right? The filing states Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. Now, critical context here. The plaintiff makes no direct accusation against Trump of abuse in this document. Trump has not been charged with any crime related to Epstein. His representatives have consistently said he was unaware of Epstein's crimes and cut ties with him years before the federal arrest. But this document, now publicly available through the DOJ, contains sworn allegations that were barely mentioned in weekend coverage. Compare this to the coverage of Bill Clinton. Every outlet showed the hot tub photo. Every outlet mentioned the pool image with Maxwell. But how many showed you the actual court document about Mar-a-Lago? You can find it yourself on the DOJ website. Read page by page. Form your own conclusions. Let's step back and consider what we're witnessing. A bipartisan law mandated full transparency. The deadline was files were removed without explanation, then returned with shifting justifications. Nearly 700 pages remain completely blacked out, including what appears to be an entire 119-page grand jury document labeled Grand Jury and Why. Survivor Marina Lacerda appeared on CBS demanding answers. She alleges Epstein began abusing her at his New York mansion when she was 14. Her question cuts to the core of this. Who are we trying to protect? Are we protecting survivors, or are we protecting these elite men? Congressman Massey, a Republican, said the release grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law. He warned that a future DOJ could convict the current Attorney General for not properly releasing mandated files. That's a Republican congressman threatening legal consequences against a Republican administration. Congressman Ro Khanna, a Democrat who co-sponsored the transparency bill with Massey, appeared on Face the Nation Sunday. He and Massey are now exploring inherent contempt charges against Agbondia procedure that could result in fines for every day the documents remain unreleased. Bipartisan outrage from the same 2 congressmen who wrote the bill together. Attorney Brad Edwards, who has represented over 200 Epstein survivors, pointed out what's still missing. Prosecutor Marie Villafea's 83-page prosecution memo and 60-count draft indictment from 2007. These documents, which could explain why Epstein got his sweet deal, were not in Friday's release. This isn't about political team. Both Clinton and Trump appear in these files. Both sides are spinning. Clinton's spokesperson said the White House is shielding themselves from what comes next. The White House said they've done more for victims than Democrats ever have. Neither statement helps survivors get answers. Neither statement explains why the FBI ignored Maria Farmer for 9 years. Neither statement explains why files were removed and restored over a weekend. Neither statement addresses the hundreds of completely redacted pages. The deputy, told reporters that in reviewing these files, they've learned the names of additional victims. He also said they're not currently preparing to bring new charges. Think about that. They have victim names. They have perpetrator information. They're not pursuing charges. The survivors keep asking the same question. Why? Everything I've cited today is publicly available. Go to justice.gov/Epstein. Download the files yourself. Read the court documents. Compare what you find to what the news told you. Check the House Oversight Committee releases. Verify the flight logs. Read Maria Farmer's 1996 complaint. The DOJ says more documents are coming in the weeks ahead. When they arrive, I'll be here to show you what they contain and what they redact. Because transparency isn't transparency if someone else decides what you're allowed to see.